Welcome to this episode of Creation FAQs, where we explore some of the most frequently asked questions about creation. It's a series produced by the General Conference, Public Campus Ministries, PCM. And it's really good to be able to welcome you, Annalise, back to the set. Thanks for being here.
No worries, thanks.
And Harry as well.
Hey, Sven.
Always enjoy having you here.
Thank you.
And Raul too.
Good to be here, Sven.
Good to have you back. And we're really privileged to have a guest here today, Dr. Mark Harwood.
Hello, Sven.
And you're going to be sharing your expertise of what you've been studying and researching and exploring over the last few months, years, and we look forward to hearing about that. But the interesting thing is that when you think of the concept of design, most people, most Christians would look to living cells to find design, evidence of design. And not only that, you'd also look to the universe, the fine-tuning of the universe. But Mark, you've come here to tell us that we can actually find design in the solar system.
Indeed, there's lots of evidence of that.
Now that's really interesting because normally when I look out at the night sky, I just see, these big balls, the moon, the sun, and it just looks like they're just out there. So I wouldn't necessarily look to them for design. So tell us a little bit more about this. We're really fascinated.
Well, our solar system has a lot of very unique features that are not found in other planetary systems that people are discovering recently. And that's not often said. You see the headlines will say, yet another Earth-like planet found orbiting some other star. And we're led to believe that we're just a common, ordinary sort of solar system that you find everywhere.
Scientists are really keen to find these planets, aren't they?
They are, indeed. The whole quest is there anybody else out there? Has life evolved on another planet? That's what they're about.
Because they'd expect that, if you have this vast universe with so much space, that life would have evolved in some point in time at another location in the universe.
And in fact, that's a reasonable assumption if life had evolved in the first place.
Right.
But that's another topic. We all know that, indeed, it's actually impossible for natural processes to lead to self-replicating cells, as you identified earlier.
So tell us about design. We really want to hear about this topic.
Well, there's a lot of aspects about our solar system and evidence design. Let me share a couple with you just quickly. For instance, the relationship between the sun, the moon and the Earth is an extraordinary example of design. The moon subtends the same angle from the surface of the Earth as the sun does. In other words, they look the same size in the sky. Right. What that means is that you can have total solar eclipses happen, just like we happened recently.
And why is that useful for us in science?
Well, first of all, it's an incredible coincidence. So whenever you see an incredible coincidence, the question mark should come up. Is it really a coincidence or is that evidence of design? The second reason, though, to your question, the reason it's important is that through total solar eclipses, we've been able to learn much about the physics of the sun. In fact, the element helium was discovered by looking at the solar corona during a total solar eclipse. So it's as though we've been placed in a situation that invites us to discover the universe in which we live.
So God designed the solar system for us to be able to explore the rest of the universe and indeed chemistry and all those kind of things.
I think that's exactly right. In fact, it's consistent with the mandate that God gave mankind right back at the beginning in Genesis, where he said that we were to have dominion over all of the creation.
Now tell us more about the moon.
Well, the moon does lots of great things. It's a very unusual moon. Our moon is very large. Almost all of the moons in the solar system are in the order of 1,000th the size of the planet that they orbit. But our moon is about an 80th of the mass of the Earth. So it's much, much bigger than all the other moons. And as a consequence of that, it has a significant gravitational influence so that we get a repetition of tides. We get 2 high tides a day, roughly, and 2 low tides, and that movement of the ocean waters constantly oxygenates the ocean waters, which means that coastal life thrives, and that's fundamental to the whole ecology of life on the Earth.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that the tides actually cause some kind of friction, and that has an effect on the moon as well, correct?
It does, actually. What's happening there is there's an exchange of angular momentum so that the moon is actually moving slightly further away from us each year. and the Earth commensurately slows down a little in its rotation rate. And that's kind of intriguing because the rate at which it's moving is not much, mind you. We're talking about 4 centimetres a year, roughly. But that is a significant rate because if you wind the process backwards, it says that the moon can't have been around for the claimed 4.5 billion years that we hear about all the time.
Because it would have been in contact with the Earth.
It would have been in contact with the Earth.
Right.
It would have been so close that it would have disintegrated.
Right.
It's just totally contrary to the existence of the moon.
It would have had devastating effects as well on the Earth, right, if it would have been considerably or significantly closer.
Quite. If the moon was too close to us, you'd have enormous tides, great tidal waves crashing onto the coast, destroying everything. And the converse, if it was too far away, the tides would be inconsequential, and so they wouldn't serve that vital purpose of oxygenating coastal waters.
Wow.
So all these little coincidences line up to the point where you have to say, hang on a minute, something's happening here.
Yeah.
This is clear evidence pointing to design.
But not only the moon, there's also our Earth itself, and we can find design there. You're telling us.
Absolutely.
So give us more about that.
Another one that comes to mind quickly: the Earth has a magnetic field, and that magnetic field shields us from dangerous, destructive radiation from the sun, like gamma ray radiation, for instance. But that's all very well, but there's a problem because the Earth's magnetic field intensity, the amount of energy it has been shown to be decreasing with a half-life of about 1,400 years. What that means is if you go back 1,400 years, the Earth's magnetic field would be twice as strong as it is today. Go back another 1,400, it would be 4 times as strong. Now, here's the catch, because the naturalistic explanation for how our solar system came to be, the attempt to explain the existence of our solar system without God, in other words, believes that the magnetic fields are supported by circulating currents in the core of the Earth. So if the magnetic field is getting stronger and stronger as you go back in time, so too must that circulating current.
So like a dynamo.
Yes, that's right. It's called the dynamo theory, in fact. The problem with that is that a circulating current dissipates heat. Remember those old bar radiators you used to have? You probably don't remember, you're too young.
I do remember them.
But they just worked on electrical resistance, and it radiated heat. So the stronger the current is, the more heat it would have radiated. So you go back in time, the Earth would have been hotter and hotter and hotter. You go back about 10,000 years and it would have been like an incandescent light bulb, and life would not have been possible.
But isn't the magnetic field supposed to have reversed down through history? So a bit like your heater would turn colder and hotter, and it would mean that we wouldn't heat up if we go back too far.
Yeah, but that's a reversal of orientation, not the energy, the intensity of the field.
Interesting.
It's the intensity which has been decaying with that half-life.
Right.
And indeed, there's very powerful evidence for multiple reversals. But even those are interesting because what geologists find is that in thin layers of lava there have been multiple reversals which must have happened very quickly, which is totally contrary to the evolutionary story. But interestingly, there was an event recorded in Genesis 6, 7 and 8, the flood of Noah, which would have led to tremendous geological working on the surface of the Earth.
Right.
But we are diverting a bit, but that's...
We'll come back to that in another episode.
I'd love to, yeah.
Yes, very interesting. But of course, it's not just the moon and our Earth. We've got other astronomical objects in our solar system.
Indeed.
So tell us a bit about the design in the rest of our solar system.
Well, the positioning of our planets is important. Like the planet Jupiter is a huge planet, massive planet. But its position is very important because it helps actually to stabilise the Earth's orbit, and it also has the effect of, it's a bit like a vacuum cleaner. It sweeps up any debris, stray asteroids, meteorites that might be floating through the solar system, because they'll be drawn into it and crash into Jupiter far more likely than becoming a hazard to the Earth. So it has a kind of vacuum cleaner role, if I can use that analogy. And there are a lot of other factors in there too, in the distribution of planets. By the way, the positioning of Jupiter and Saturn, the other gas giant, are a great puzzle to the naturalists who try and explain the universe without God, because if this putative swirling cloud of dust and gas that formed our solar system, if that's how it happened, then the sun, the moment it starts to burn, it radiates lots of intense radiation pressure, and that tends to disperse the cloud of dust. That means that there would not have been enough time for a planet the size of Jupiter and Saturn to have even formed. So according to that nebula hypothesis, as it's called, our gas giants should not even be there, but they are.
So they're a miracle.
Well, they're a miracle. And in fact, all these things are miracles if you think about it. And that's a very important point. You see, what scientists can do is make observations of the physical world and the universe, and we make observations in the present. So what we're observing is how the universe operates, not how it was formed. The processes of operation are different from the processes of creation.
Interesting.
So when we talk about the creation week, we're actually talking about a week of miracles. God spoke and things appeared in response to his command, the power and purpose of his word.
But we can still see evidence of those miracles in the solar system.
Absolutely, because what we see is the design and the intent of the Creator God making a home for mankind. And we read about that in Isaiah. It says that the earth was created to be inhabited. So we're not an accident. This was made as a home for man. No wonder everything is just right, the Goldilocks planet, as some people call it.
I just wanted to ask, do we see evidence as well for creation outside our own solar system? You know, a lot of the time people would think that, no, we're not special, things are made the same way over there and there's nothing significant about us, or about this solar system. Do we see design in other solar systems discovered?
What we see are radical differences between our solar system and other planetary systems. And it's quite extraordinary. They've now confirmed some 3,000 what they call exoplanets, planets that orbit stars other than our sun, external to our solar system. But the distribution of those planets is nothing like the distribution of the planets in our solar system, to the point where some astronomers are saying, we just have to start again with developing theories of planetary formation, because we can't explain why these other planetary systems are the way they are. You know, so
And where you're leading us to is really back to the Bible, which is amazing. And Harry, we just have a couple of passages we just wanted to share with the viewing audience. And the first one is in Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 to 19. Would you just be able to read that for us?
Certainly can. It says, "And God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, there was morning, the fourth day."
It's amazing. Yeah. Just to wrap up, what would your final message for us be?
look, I think when we look at the heavens, we clearly see the evidence of design. These things did not happen by chance. So if there's design, that implies there's a designer. So who is the designer? And I believe the designer has revealed himself to us in his word, the Bible.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us for this Creation FAQ episode. We look forward to seeing you next time for another fascinating topic.